Have you ever sat there and thought, how am I going to get through this? Fighting your demons, your trauma, pain, can be one of the most difficult things you will ever do. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach either, since we're all different, which means all of our problems are different. So we have to figure out what works for ourselves. Luckily, we aren't alone in those struggles. So let's have a chat and let's see what we can do together to get through this. When you feel like things aren't going your way, just do what you need to do. And what do I mean by that? We all have things that comfort us. We all have things that we enjoy above everything else. We have things that we do that just bring us comfort and make us feel safe and make us feel better, regardless of what that may be. Because for some, it might just be staying in, cuddling in bed with their cat. For some, it might be going out to a party. To some, it might just be gaming all night. Some might want to go on a late drive. It all depends on you. You might sit there thinking that you don't know what you need to do in order to make yourself feel better. But there's a very big chance that you know what you enjoy doing. So I want you to focus on those things as much as you can. Whenever I'm not feeling very well up here, whenever things aren't going great, whenever I feel like things aren't working out for me, I have almost like a formula that I follow. It's a little bit of like a step-by-step thing that I just kind of do for myself because I know it's going to make me feel better, which I want to share with you and talk about in much more detail towards the end of the video. But for now, let's continue to focus on you. I understand the things that I mentioned aren't exactly concrete because I just kind of said, do what you need to do, because we are so unique. What I might tell one person might not work in a million years for another. But something that is universal that I can tell everybody is that if you need some time for yourself, you deserve it. You don't need to feel bad about it. There's no shame in being selfish in that regard, because you're not being selfish to hurt or use other people. You're being selfish to make yourself feel better because you're just not feeling good right now. Navigating through your demons can be a little bit tricky at times because, like we previously mentioned, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to any of it really. There's a very interesting concept in the book written by Sultrim Alioni where she says to feed your demons. It's described as almost like a meditation practice where you imagine what this demon looks like and you quite literally sit down and eat with it, or you go out for a coffee with it or whatever, but you just imagine a scenario where you just interact with the things that are going on around in your head. I believe a big benefit or even meaning behind all of it is the fact that we just need to accept those things, because all those negative parts of us are there to stay. They can be slightly altered, maybe trained, but they are always going to be there because those things just stay. That's just who we are. But if you just accept them and let them be and understand that they are just going to be there, rather than trying your absolute best to just get rid of them, you will find that you're going to live with your demons in a bit more of a unison way. So instead of being in a tug of war with them constantly, there's going to be a little bit more harmony. One of my biggest demons is that I always think that I'm lazy. No matter how much I do, no matter how packed or chilled my day is, at the end of it, I feel like I could have done more. And I know I do quite a fair bit every single day. And I know that, I plan my weeks, I plan my days, I have goals for the month, and I do all of that. But I still feel like I'm not doing enough. And that is the part that I've just simply come to accept. Because there are times where after a long week of doing everything, I will just sit down and I'll just play games. And I'll just chill out and do some gaming just to wind down, let my brain decompress a little bit and just relax. But whilst I'm doing all of that, I'm sat there thinking, should I be here gaming, or is there something else I could be doing? So in a sense, I kind of have to force myself a little bit to just kind of say, no, you do need to sit down and relax. You don't want to burn yourself out. And one of my good friends always tells me the same, is that if I continue doing it non-stop, I will just burn myself out and stop. Navigating through the negative aspects of ourselves is a bit of an art form. It's something that takes a lot of time and practice in a sense, because it's something that you just have to slowly incorporate into your thought process. It's not something that you can just switch on and it'll just be there and it'll be fine. It's something you have to come to terms with. It's one of those things where, like, if you're betrayed, the following day you're not going to be like, oh, whatever. Especially if that person meant a whole lot to you. You're going to need a lot of time to process and understand, to come to terms with everything that they've done. And I believe it is very similar with accepting your demons, is that when you decide to accept them, it's not going to magically change overnight, But that is when you're going to start making those steps and adjustments in your mentality and the way you think about them from here on out. It's a little bit like our demons are a reflection of our best traits of ourselves. Because personally, like I mentioned, I feel like I do quite a lot. But because I do quite a lot, whenever I'm not doing anything, I immediately think I'm just lazy and that I'm just not doing anything of my time. I'm not being productive, which I believe is that reflection of one of my best traits, being I like to think that I'm a hard worker, being that when I'm not doing anything, I immediately just think I'm lazy. So accept those negative parts of yourself. Let them be. Don't feed them, because that's not what this is about. Because if I think that I'm lazy and then I just say, oh, whatever, I'm just going to do nothing from now on, I'm feeding that demon. I don't want to feed it. I want to accept it, that it's just a part of who I am. So whenever I feel like I want a bit of time off, or I feel guilty for having some downtime, I have to remind myself that no, I am allowed downtime. I am allowed to switch off. I am allowed to just not do anything for a couple hours in a week. So I'm going to want you to do the same. I want you to think about what it is that are your best traits, because the opposite of those best traits normally are the demons that you're trying to fight. So whenever I'm feeling low, I try to do my minimum. Earlier on in the video, I spoke about how I have like a bit of a formula that I follow, and this is basically it. It's that every single day I do X amount of stuff, but whenever I'm feeling low, I can't stay on top of all of it. I just can't. It's not possible for me, and I need to do what's my minimum. So as long as I do something, as long as I do my minimum, because I see of it this way, you can't give your 100% all the time. So what you need to do is give the 100% of what you can. If your 100% for a 1 week is going to be 10% of your normal maximum effort, that's fine. So be it. As long as you gave your 100% at the time. The way I see it, if I do my non-negotiables, and when I do them, when I finish them, it automatically makes me feel better. And by no means am I just pushing that negativity to the side. When I am feeling better, I like to sit there and I like to think about it. And I like to think and ask myself why. Why did that affect you so much? What happened? So in a sense, I am using action to prove to myself that what I am doing is okay, that I am doing fine. And then slowly over time, as I continue to do what I told myself that I'm going to do, the action increases and the negativity and the low side of things decreases. And obviously I know that's not going to fit everybody, but I do know that for a lot of people, if you just set yourself tasks and goals, when you just stick with doing things for yourself, eventually it all just accumulates to so much, you have no room to think about something else. Obviously those things just don't go away. They are still going to be there. They're still lurking around, and during your lower moments and your doubts, and whenever you're thinking, why am I even doing this? Why do I bother? They obviously lurk in, because that's when you're the most vulnerable and they strike immediately. But that is when you just need to be ready for them. Obviously, like we mentioned, we can't just be working and doing things 24/7, even if it is for our own sakes, and even if it is for this whole improving oneself. Sometimes you do generally just need to sit down and do absolutely nothing. And that is very difficult for me to say, but it is something, like we mentioned in the previous section, it's just something I've come to terms with. But sometimes, even after my non-negotiables, I feel like I just can't do absolutely anything else. I can't do any more. So then I just completely just shut off and not do anything. And sometimes you need a day or two like that. And that's absolutely okay. Thank you very much for tuning in to this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. And if you disagree with absolutely anything that I said in this video, please leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you. Last week, we spoke about our past and how we need to remember, we need to reflect, and we can't just lock it away, because it makes us who we are today. And before you go, if you could like the video and subscribe, that would mean the absolute world to me. I would really appreciate it, because it always helps me out a ton. So I'm going to leave that video on the screen right here, and I hope I see you there. Thank you, and bye-bye.